Super. You trusted me with this?
Talking turkeys, huh?
Talking turkeys.
How long have you been turkey hunting?
Too long?
Probably longer than me, I feel like.
I shot my first bird. I think I was still in paramedic school, so I had to be 18 years old.
Okay.
And that was off the property there where we grew up in.
Yeah. Did you hunt a couple years before you killed the
No,
first one?
first
Okay.
season. So I went out and bought a choke for my 870, which I was always using for deer, and I had a separate barrel for rabbit and stuff too. So I put it on the rabbit barrel, and I had a slate call, and I had no idea how to work a reed, so I wasn't even worried about that.
Yeah.
And I had a little box call, one of the push chirp ones. Never even touched it. So we had this bird in the back 20 that would gobble off some mornings he wouldn't. And then I had a break in medic school, so I grabbed the gun, went down there, and I was just sitting in the bottom, and nothing was happening. And I got there first light. So I just kind of was like, you know what? I'm not in school right now. So I'm just going to sit in the woods, relax, maybe study a little bit, because I had one of my books with me in my backpack, and I sat up against a log until 10:30. And then all of a sudden, at the top of this knoll, this bird sounded off and just, and I was like, oh, he's
all by himself.
Yeah, all by himself. I was like, well, I know that's good because he's looking for love.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give him a couple quick calls, and I think I had a hen decoy out. I did. I had a hen decoy out at about 60 yards, which was way too far. Looking back now, that was way too far. So he came into the open woods, gobbled not a whole bunch, but I wasn't calling a whole lot because it sounded like he was working his way in. He only gobbled 4 or 5 times and closed 150 yards in a matter of 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But once he saw the hen decoy, he held up because he wanted that hen to go to her. I didn't know that then. I thought he was just being cautious.
Yep.
So I think it was probably another 5 minutes of him just slowly moving back and forth. I didn't know what spitting and drumming was, but I heard something. I thought it was something behind me. I was like, oh, there's a critter behind me. I hope he doesn't spook it.
Yeah.
But he was drumming. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. Now I know what that was. So he finally came right to the decoy, and it was a 60-yard shot with a 20 gauge on a short barrel with a full choke, and I didn't know any better, and I squeezed, and I got lucky. I'm pretty sure one BB hit it and knocked it over.
Got him.
And I got him, and I tossed the gun down to the side, and I ran up. I didn't, because I've heard that you're supposed to stand on their heads.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if he was down, or if he was just doing that flop, and stood on his head. And you just got your phone in your pocket. You're standing on the head. You're making a phone call right there. So I called my dad, and I was like, Dad, I got one. And he's like, no, you didn't. And I was like, yeah, I did. I'm standing on it. Of course I got one. I'm not going to lie to you. So the one that I have mounted in the trophy room upstairs, that bird.
Which is a big bird.
Yeah, which I didn't know that was a big bird, but
that's a big bird.
Yeah, I was tickled pink. And then I was on a hot streak I was 18. I was on a hot streak for 10 years, not missing a turkey season, not missing a bird during turkey season. And then I started Field of Food, and then everything went downhill. And then I became
trying to videotape.
Yep. Then I became a real bad turkey hunter.
Yeah.
So
my first one was a Jake. I told you guys a little bit ago, I watched turkey hunting on the TV, and I thought it was the dumbest thing ever. I was like, you can freaking burp, you can fart, and these things just gobble. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, anybody could do this, So I had a older friend of mine. It was my buddy's sister's boyfriend, and she was like 5 years older. He's like, hey, and he was just obsessed with turkey hunting. He's like, hey, I know you don't really turkey hunt, but if you want to turkey hunt, I'll take you out for youth season. And I'm like, whatever, I'll give it a shot,
Yeah.
He took me, and he's like, hey, he knew that I hunted at my uncle's. It was only 20 acres. And he's like, is there any turkeys? I said, I see them in the fall. I don't know about the spring. Like, I don't go out there and scout. I'm never out there. I didn't shed hunt back then or anything. I mean, I was probably a freshman, maybe a sophomore, probably freshman. I was pretty young. And I I was like, we can go out there. I called my uncle. He's like, yeah, it's fine. You know, you guys can go. We went out there. I'm not kidding, man. There were 15 to 20 different birds gobbling.
Really?
Like, there were like 4 or 5 here, 4 or 5 here, 5 or 6 here. I mean, it was like still to this day the best property that I've ever turkey hunted.
Yeah, it's not normally like that.
No, I've never seen anything like it again. It's not that way anymore. I can still hunt this property, but it's not the same way. It's something, I think more people turkey hunt now. The neighbors all started turkey hunting.
Yeah.
And something happened, and now you hear 3 or 4. But I'm not kidding you. There were 15 to 20 different birds. I hunted it. I ended up hunting it. That was the first year I hunted it, and I hunted it for the next 7 or 8. And it was just, it's the best turkey hunting spot I've ever had. And I've been turkey hunting 17 years or something now, you know. But anyways, so he takes me out, and we hear these birds just hammering. Nothing comes in of my uncle's, but I immediately was like, this is freaking awesome, you know.
Yeah.
Like, this is way better than it looks on TV.
Yeah, it is fun.
So we end up going to one of his spots, and we're driving down the road, and we see there end up being 3 jakes, and they're kind of going across this field. And he's like, we can get in front of them and just try to call them in if you want. I can hunt that property. And I'm like, no, whatever. I didn't know what the hell a jake was.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't care. So we do, and we get in front of these birds, and we call, and they never gobbled or nothing, but they ended up peeking over the hill, and they come right in, and I shot a jake. Wasn't very exciting, but I still was pumped, you know. And remember eating it. He told me how to cut it up and everything. My mom cooked it, and it was pretty good. Now I have it down pretty good where I love turkey.
Yeah.
If you overcook it, it's the worst thing ever. But if you cook it right, it's phenomenal.
Yeah. There's a couple tips and tricks out there for them.
Yeah. So ever since then, I've just been, the next year after that, I just started going on my own. Actually, the next year after that, I had one more guy take me youth hunting. I would have been probably like a sophomore. And then I'd say from 16 on, I've done it all myself. The next year, my second year turkey hunting, a guy called me in. My cousin and I were sitting together side by side, just like me and you. And we had 4 longbeards come in and a whole flock of hens. Mm-hmm. And we ended up shooting 2 longbeards, just boom, boom. We counted to 3.
Oh,
1,
really?
2, 3, boom.
Oh, that's
yeah,
cool.
we perfected it. Like, it sounded like there was one shot. It was freaking awesome. That was my cousin Zach Welker. And man, it was one of the funnest hunts I've ever been on in my life. But ever since then, so I had 2 years where somebody took me out, taught me the ropes a little bit, and then I taught myself how to use the mouth calls. I couldn't do it for, man, I'll bet you it took me 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Before I was like, okay, I can take this to the woods.
Yeah.
I'm pretty damn good now. I'm not trying to toot my own horn or nothing, but I got it down pretty good. I used to always use slate calls, and I'm pretty good with the mouth call now.
I'm sure you're better than I am. Like if I went on to American Idol, I don't think I would get set to the next round. I got pretty mediocre good at best.
Yeah, I got pretty good. It took me a long time, but I messed up a lot when I was young, man. A lot, because I would overcall.
Yeah.
When you hear a turkey gobble, you're like, I want to hear him gobble again. And so I would just call, and I would call, and then them turkeys would hit 100 yards, and they'd just hang up.
Yeah.
So it took me a few years, but I finally got good. I realized less is more, I think, with turkey hunting.
Oh, 100%.
You don't need, and you don't have to call every 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I have now that I've gotten better and I've learned more, I have more birds gobble more often with less calling. Like if I get them to gobble, especially mid-morning, after 8, 9 o'clock, you get them to gobble once or twice, and you just shut up, and they will come in the whole way, and there's blah, blah. The one I killed this past year, man, he gobbled 20 times in a matter of 10 minutes.
Really?
Yep. I striked him up one time. It was 10 a.m. I got him to gobble just randomly. I struck him up, and he was far. I could barely hear this turkey, and I hit him hard. I just laid it to him, and I shut up, and it was every 50 yards he gobbled all the way in until I killed him.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So
I haven't killed one on public land yet. I would love to do that. I haven't done that. I know you do a lot of public land hunting. Haven't killed one on public yet, but
I got lucky my first year on public for turkey. I think it was 2017 or 2018. I went out and spot in southern Ohio, and it wasn't popular on public land yet. It was still just the old timers doing it.
I think in the past 5 years is when turkeys really got popular.
Yeah.
I think hunting in general has, but turkey, I feel like, has really, really gained a lot of popularity in the last 5, 6.
So I was still kind of a dumb caller. I got away with so much on that bird because the sun was coming up. It was just cresting the hill. I was on the shady side of the hill. He was on the sunny side. It rained that night, so I think what happened is he was trying to sun his feathers.
Yeah.
And anytime I would call, he would call back, and I could hear him getting closer. But there's this little lip that he wouldn't work around, and I didn't have to reposition far, but I saw off to my, I think it was to the south, there was a bunch of oak trees that had the acorn caps still sitting on the ground, and I was like, I bet you if I go over there, that's a point of interest for him. He knows there's food over there. He's probably going to recognize that a hen might be interested in that too.
Yep.
So I moved over there, and sure as shit, he crested that hill, and all I saw was that little telescoping head, and I was like, that's all I need.
Yeah.
Like, I know there's nothing for a mile that way. I'm shooting.
Yep.
And so I got him. I crossed underneath the cattle fence, grabbed him, and it was the same thing. I was like I always feel like deer hunting. It's not that it's exciting, but it's like something that you're conditioned to because you're shooting 4 or 5 deer a year. But with turkey, it's like, oh, this just happened, and it was just it's awesome.
Yep, I went a long time actually until 2 years ago. I tagged out every single year, so I shot 2 birds in Ohio. You're allowed to. Up until, I think it was 2 years ago they changed
last year or year before?
Yeah, last year or the year before they changed it. It's only 1 bird. But I went a long time. I tagged out every year. Now I had the 2 years where somebody called in a bird for me, and I probably had, I'll bet you it took me 3 years before I called a bird in on my own. But man, when I called that first bird in on my own, it was the most rewarding thing ever. I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
I was at my dad's friend's property over in Robertsville, and he texted